And showtime! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. Look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by our other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, welcome to 2023.
Happy New Year, Rich. Here I am reporting for duty as we launch the first episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup for 2023 after you and I have taken a little bit of well-deserved time off. I think you can tell we have a little bit more spring in our step, a little bit more, an octave higher in our voices because we did recharge, didn't we, Rich?
We absolutely did, both of us. So first of all, Happy New Year to you and to the folks in our audience as well. If you have missed us, folks, sorry that we went dark on you for a little while there, but like Eric says, we both took a couple weeks off. We are recharged, rested, ready to go into this new year. And Eric, with that, let's dive right in. So first work week of the year here, not a ton going on in the industry, but CES is happening in Las Vegas this week. There is so much hardware news out of that event that it's pretty much impossible to summarize. But there are a couple of trends I'm noticing that I'll just kind of call some attention to here, and I'll cite a specific example in each case. One thing that I'm kind of noticing is that a lot of the manufacturers here are introducing laptops that look to me like they are really kind of designed to compete with Apple's very popular devices, laptops that are hugely popular actually with creatives, basically people who do video processing and video editing and design, architecture, engineering, etc. HP has an event, a laptop they're introducing at CES this year called the Dragonfly Pro. And they're saying that they didn't reference Apple in any of their press materials. They didn't talk about MacBooks, but they said that this is a device specifically built for freelancers, was the way that they put it. And it packs a combination of processing power, long battery life, high definition video, crystal clear audio. And in particular, it's the processing power and the long battery life that catches my attention because the M1 and M2 processors for Apple kind of do an amazing job of combining those two things. So we won't go into details. There are other devices from other manufacturers that look to me like they're trying to go head-to-head with Apple in that category in there. The other thing that I'm seeing, and this was something that some of the manufacturers called out explicitly. So, for several years now, we've seen new devices come along that are explicitly designed for hybrid work. And so, the video and the audio I referenced before are really kind of dialed up because if you're going to be online in Teams and Zoom a lot, those kinds of things matter. Continuing to see that, but we're also seeing some of these mobile devices with great video and audio having sort of beefier specs, more processing power and so on around them. And the issue that the manufacturers have said is that hybrid work isn't just a euphemism for remote work. Hybrid work means you're spending some time at home and some time at the office. And there are some people out there who don't really like having to compromise on things like processing power when they're in the office. And so rather than have two devices, you can still have the one device, but you're not kind of giving up on processing power. And so Lenovo, just as an example, has a new device called the ThinkBook 16P Gen 4. The ThinkBook line from Lenovo is specifically for SMBs. It's tended to, favor affordability over performance in the past, but this is, and explicitly, Lenovo is saying this is the most powerful ThinkBook they've ever done. H-series Intel Core processors, NVIDIA GeForce RTX graphics, up to 2 terabytes of storage on dual SSD. So, the specs on this are pretty robust. And I think this is, again, a broader trend in the hardware industry to allow hybrid workers to do hybrid work without compromise.
Yeah, Rich, and what I'm also tracking is that trying to get back to that kind of single device, opportunity. So, as we see lots of folks going back to the office now that we start seeing that trend now, or the business owners themselves, the leadership saying, you know what, we're gonna let folks do a little bit of work from home, and not only from home, but we're seeing if the air traffic is any clue, Rich, people are back at it and in force. And I'm not going to segue into all the travel challenges that we've heard about over the holidays here, but it sounds like air travel is just going to, get not only back to where it was, but even further. So folks are traveling more. It's nice to be able to take your workstation, right, with you, whether it's in the office, whether it's, traveling, whether you're on a plane, whether you're at home. And I'm like you, I'm starting to see they're really beefing up the guts, the processing, the memory, the storage, and the big surprise for me was that they're really investing in the high quality audio and video. And I read in your article that you wrote, one of the devices actually switches cameras. So if you're on a whiteboard or something like that, it knows and it will switch. Or if you're looking at a different monitor, it has like auto camera switching. So really kind of elevating the potential for these devices to adapt to how we want to use them now. Before, we had to adapt to the limitation of the device. Now, I think I'm seeing some of these manufacturers coming out with these devices that are like, oh, we see how people are working now. We're going to, add these additional features, beef them up so you can have the same experience no matter where you are working, but we're also going to make it a lot easier for you to do a lot more virtual type of meetings and conversations and collaboration that way. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and you actually called attention to something that is kind of interesting. And I think this is still kind of in its infancy, but the last couple of years or so, there were a lot of devices introduced at CES every year that had a high megapixel camera, because again, you're on camera a lot these days. And what you're starting to see this year is high megapixel cameras that do interesting kinds of things. So, and you were kind of pointing to one thing where, like on my desk, I have a monitor, and then I use my laptop sort of as a second monitor, and they both have cameras on them, basically. And yeah, if I using the technology from one of the systems in particular at CES this year, if I shift my attention from one device to the other, the software will detect that my face is looking in a different direction and essentially switch to the other camera so that you're not getting my face from this. So that's kind of interesting. You're seeing cameras that swivel and feed around. You're seeing laptops that are capable of streaming out dual video feeds. So instead of having to show somebody either your face talking or like a whiteboard you were saying, or something you're demoing, you can actually stream both of those out at once. So yeah, manufacturers are starting to get creative and interesting with some of what they enable people to do with these high definition cameras. So Eric, if like me, you're into laptops, there are just so many of those being introduced in Las Vegas this week, which is a good thing. But let's move on to your tip of the week, which is about the possibility of there being too much of a good thing.
Nice segue, Rich. Right. We're right back in the fight with the ChannelPro 5-minute roundup, the great segues. And yes, the tip of the week this week might be a little bit of a good thing. So are you, as an MSP, a ChannelPro, are you doing too much digital marketing? That may sound odd, right? We always talk, Rich, about, well, hey, no matter what the economy is doing, you've got to market. You've got to market for lead generation. And if the economy is suffering, you've got to market even more, right? Don't cut back on the marketing budget. So the tip of the week isn't so much, if you're doing too much digital marketing in as opposed to at the cost of other types of traditional marketing and sales activities. So that's the other half of that equation. So I was having a conversation recently with a partner that was talking to me about, the challenge that they were having with lead generation in their region and the things that, they were already doing. And they were investing a ton of time, Rich, energy, effort, and money in digital marketing, social media marketing, recording YouTube videos and building a YouTube channel, and all of this digital effort going into consuming a lot of their time. And as I was listening, I started asking other questions. Well, what else are you doing if you're having a challenge with lead generation, filling the top of that sales funnel? What else are you doing? Are you asking your existing clients for referrals on a regular basis? The answer was no, I really am not doing that. I said, okay, are you building referral partnering relationships with other affinity vendors, the vendors that are also providing services to your target audience? You know, I'm talking about janitorial services, printer copier manufacturers, maybe even phone providers. Maybe we're not doing that component of it. Moving companies. I gave him examples of when I had my MSP practice, a couple of the largest lead generating relationships that we had were, one was a moving company, because that organization knew when an organization was moving to a new location, right? So they were getting hired to either move them to the location or move them out of a location to another location. So we did a lot of referral relationship with that organization. We had a cabling company that we would, use their services for our clients. And they, again, just kind of like the moving company, know when someone's moving in and needs to pull cable and things like that, they refer us business that way. Another one was we had a relationship with kind of we built a kind of a smart office situation. We had an executive office suite that we provided services for. And we negotiated a deal where, when they had a new tenant move in, part of their package was to offer our services, set them up and provide them support and things like that. So that really grew tremendously. So I was asking questions like this, and then other traditional questions like, are you doing quarterly business reviews with clients? And then kind of, asking them at that point for referrals, trying to figure out ways that they could expand their referral network. I asked if he was a member of the local chambers of commerces. And, I got the sense that, like many of us in the channel, Rich, the people personality part of it is, one of the challenges of the engineer types like me, right? I'm an engineer. That's how I define myself. I when I'm on and I deliver, a high level of energy, and I do the activities that I know are not in my comfort zone. But when I'm done, I have to recharge and decompress and all that. But we have to figure out a way to compartmentalize our time, to spend the time every single week to do the things that need to be done. So I gave this partner these tips. I said, look, do these things, join the Chamber of Commerce, even if it's not your cup of tea, but at least you get the membership list and you have someone that's calling down, setting appointments for you, right? So now you have a new list and you're actually getting referrals from folks that those appointments, should be easier for you to set because they come from a referral, a trusted source. And I said, look, one thing that I learned early on when I had a lot of balls in the air and I was a smaller organization, I had to really just set aside not only days in the week that I would focus on specific things that I had to get done, but even portions of days, like Monday mornings, I do this, Tuesday afternoons, I do this, right? And every morning I would come in and make a list of things that I knew had to get done, but I would pick 3 things that I knew no matter what happens. I've got this list of 28 things, but no matter what happens today, I'm going to make sure that these 3 things get done. And if I could get those 3 things done, that's a win. Then the next day I would take the next 3. And of course, that list always changes. But again, focusing all your energy and effort in one area sometimes, doesn't deliver the outcome that you expect because you're missing doing some of these other things. Do I think that digital marketing is a good thing? Yes, I do. But I also do think that you have to do other things to fill the top of the funnel and then reinforce, because all of these activities reinforce themselves over time. Yes, you'll get traction. You'll get noticed as a thought leader by doing all these things and blogging and YouTube videos and things like that. But you also have to take direct action in asking for referrals if you're at that level, and then, investing in getting marketing lists and executing those activities as well. So 2023 first tip of the week, kind of a long one, Rich, but now's the time to, figure that stuff out so we can, start strong in 2023 and build on that.
And I think my spin, it's really important advice, and it really does kind of fit in with advice that we on this show and elsewhere have been providing for a long time, which is that if you're marketing strategy is built around an either or kind of approach, you're probably making a mistake. So the more common mistake is 100% referral-based business. You're probably missing out on business if you're only doing referrals. But if you're pretty much only doing digital marketing, same problem. So, you want to avoid being locked into one particular technique. To the degree that you can handle multiple techniques, it's really going to be beneficial to your business longer run.
Yeah, and be intentional about operating outside of your comfort zone. There are things that, I don't like doing, but if I have to do them, I'm going to figure out a way to make it so that I know that I'm only going to have to do them for so long, but I'm consistent about doing it, right? Consistency yields results. And I know for a lot of channel pros and MSPs out there, yeah, doing that people stuff and asking for referrals can sometimes feel awkward, but believe me, you do it the first 5 times, the next 5 you do it, it'll be a little bit easier. And the next 5 after that, it'll be a little bit easier. And starting off with getting those referral networks of other vendors and really swapping leads and referrals that way is a good way to kind of build up that tolerance for doing it, so that then when you do it with your existing clients, it's not such a struggle to try to, be, outside of your comfort zone and figure out how to ask for those referrals. Also, one big tip that I'll add bonus is when you're asking for referrals from existing clients, the first thing that you should consider is to ask them what their ideal customer looks like. And once you understand what that looks like, then say, you know what? I'm going to go into my client list and I'm going to try to find some folks that fit your ideal profile, and I'm going to bring them to you as referrals. And then when I come with those referrals, I would love for you to do the same for me. Here's the kind of client I'm looking for. So putting some logs into the fireplace, before we ask for heat is the way to do it. So when you show up with a few referrals, now your client is going to feel obligated to do the same thing for you. And I think that works best as you partner, and do this kind of as a team effort to help each other build your businesses.
Well, lots of good stuff there, Eric. It leaves us time, though, with or time for just one more story this week. And, I'm going to guess, Eric, that just shy of 100% of the people in our audience have seen the movie Office Space. And I know I found it very funny. I wouldn't say I found it inspirational. And yet our story this week, our final story, is about somebody who took inspiration from Office Space. You will remember at the end there was a scheme that the protagonists of that movie used to kind of siphon off spare change involved in transactions and turn it into a giant amount of money. Well, a guy here in Seattle, actually this happened just up the street from where I'm sitting right now, a 28-year-old contract software engineer has been arrested by King County Superior Court here because he injected some code into an application that he worked on that rerouted a portion of the shipping charges on tens of thousands of customer purchases. This he was working for a company called Zulily, which does children's clothing online, and he was just taking a piece of the shipping charges there, moving that money into his account. He managed to steal a little bit over $300,000 before he was caught. Not going to be a happy new year for him. So my advice would be, by all means, watch Office Space again if you haven't seen it in a while. In my experience, it pretty much never gets old. Just don't model your life, professional or otherwise, after it.
Yes, it's for entertainment purposes only. Don't take it to heart.
Our last good piece of advice this week for you folks. And thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back again next week with another episode of the show for you. Until then, we'll just remind you we are both a podcast and a video. So if you're watching the video right now, but you also enjoy listening to podcasts, go to Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google, wherever it is you get your podcast. Look for the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. You're going to find it there. Please go ahead and subscribe, rate, review. It's going to help us get the word out to other people just like you. If you're listening to the audio version of this, but you're curious to check it out on video, best thing to do is go to YouTube, look for the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube. There again, you can subscribe. If you click the little bell icon there, you'll even get reminded when the new episodes become available. All sorts of additional CES news that we didn't get a chance to talk about here, and other news from the industry, all sorts of great business growth advice for your company. It's going up live every day on channelpronetwork.com, so please visit that site every day. You want to learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, you should go to ericsimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, we thank you very much for joining us. We're going to see you again next week. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.